Are you worried about your amazing artwork, photographs, and so on being used by AI without your permission? Let's talk tech about some easy steps for artists and photographers to help protect your creations and keep them a little bit safer in the digital world. Let's get started. Hello and welcome. So, AI. It's a complicated topic, but particularly for artists and photographers, there's a lot more negative right now, I think, than positive. And I've been getting a lot of questions about this kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about some steps that you can take right now as a photographer, an artist, that type of visual art type of work to help protect yourself, either proactively keeping it out of AI training or at least giving you some tools for if when you find out that they have been using your material without permission. Now, I'm specifically talking about visual art kind of things right now, mostly about artists and photographers. A little bit this also works for video. And in the future, I will talk about other forms of creative work like writing and video and all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to start here because this is where we're seeing the most traction right now. And yes, it is not a perfect scenario, but at least it's something. So traditionally, the creator of a piece has the right to reproduce, distribute, display, create derivative works, all that kind of stuff based off of the original. And they could also grant or deny those rights to somebody else, right? So somebody could come to them and say, hey, I want to pay you for your art and use it this way, and you would get to make that choice. Well, things have gotten a little fuzzier in the technical world here, right? So that right to deny or permit has sort of been ignored or ripped away, depending on who you talk to. And now there's code out there that's just collecting art and photos and all those types of things and sucking that into the data feed that is being used to train AI. And this is really happening without permission, right? I mean, that's really what's happening as the rule of thumb right now, which is not okay. I apologize. The dog is freaked out because I put a little gate in, which he can clear, but that's the noise you hear in the background. He's halfway across it and he won't finish. That's Murphy's problem. That's not our problem right now. So yeah, so you don't want anybody. It's not okay. It's if the shoe's on the other foot, right? The AI people don't want us taking their stuff without permission, right? So while the right of ownership, when an image is created, through AI or based on, other things that AI then turns around and says, here you go. There's a lot of uncertainty. It's certainly not clear, particularly when you compare it to like more traditional art forms in those types of situations. Copyright laws are not covering AI generated images, but all of that has not slowed down the rampant theft. I'm going to use the word. It is rampant theft that's happening and going on all over the place. And while there are no 100% solutions at all, we're going to talk about the steps that you can take right now to try to improve your protections. Hopefully that sounds good. For those of you who are new here, let me just introduce myself. My name is Kathleen. I'm here as your tech coach. Short version of the story is my day gig is software development, right? But I love technology. I love the possibility of it while acknowledging that not everything is a positive. And because of that, my friends, family, neighbors, coworkers tend to come to me when they have a question, when they want help with something, when they want advice, which has led me to understand that everybody has somebody to talk to. So that's why I'm here every week doing the show. I do it on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern time. But whether you watch it live or you're catching it on a replay, it's all good. Happy to have you here. Feel free to jump into the chat or go into the comments and let me know what your thoughts are, what steps you're taking. And also, if you have a topic you want me to cover, feel free to go ahead and pop that in there too. And I will try to work that into future shows. All righty, let's get back into this, shall we? All right, so we are definitely looking at several different things. And like I mentioned, at the start, this is not necessarily going to protect you across the board, right? It's not going to stop the AI theft that's happening right now. Hopefully that is going to happen over time. But so some of this, is things that you can do to try to stop or at least limit the amount of that nonsense that's going on. And some of it is stuff that will just be helpful should you ever need to prove your ownership. Alrighty. Okay, let me bring this up. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to start off with the basics, which is watermarks. So watermarks are something that have been kicked around for a long time and have been used. A lot of your tools probably offer some way to do that type of thing. And it is something to consider. Now, there is a trade-off, right? Because the watermark is visible to anybody who's looking at your art. You also want to be careful about placement of it, because if you put it someplace that's easy to crop out, then that just makes it easy for somebody to crop it out and make believe it was never there, all that kind of stuff. So it's there. It is an option. And it's something worth considering. There are different levels of watermarks now. In the beginning, it was just something that was always there. Now there are ways that you can make it more subtle. You could even do ones that are just like digital, so they're not necessarily visible to the naked eye, but with different tools you can access them and see them. So definitely worth revisiting and checking out. Again, it's just another option that you can go ahead and use going forward. All right, let me get the next one. Copyright. So this is, again, another way for you to legally specify that this is yours and you have rights to it. Now there are some implied copyrights when you first create something, but then there's also the process of going through and actually filing a copyright for the work that you've done. Again, not necessarily going to stop the AI tools from snarfing your stuff as part of their training, but it could, because if they can see the watermark, if they can see the copyright, then it may not be worth it to them to risk it. But if they still do, at least then you have the proof that you have filed the copyright and it is yours. So on a couple different levels, that can be very helpful. Same thing goes with metadata. So metadata is more for the digital files that you might put out there on the internet or send to your customers, that kind of stuff. And it's just another level of information that you can attach to that file to then, and part of that would be including your copyright, the history of it, when it was created, any revisions, all that kind of stuff. Again, there are a lot of tools that have that built into it, or you can go and find tools to add it. Now, yes, could somebody take your image and resave it and, you'll lose that metadata? Yes, none of these, nothing we're going to talk about here is 100%. But if you pick a couple that you feel are going to work well in your workflow, it will help give you those tools should you decide to use them, or if you have them later on, if you have need for them later on. So nothing is perfect, right? So the watermarks, kind of like a signature on your painting. The idea is that they tell everyone who created the work. You want to put them in a spot that's hard to remove or crop out, but obviously you don't want to cover your entire work. Copyright is like a legal shield for your creations. It's automatic technically from the moment you create something, but by registering it, going that extra step, it does give you extra protection, right? And it gives you a way to say, this is mine, and here's the proof. And metadata is like both of those, but it's hidden information in your file. So you can put things like your name, your contact information, your copyright information, all that kind of stuff. And kind of think of it like sort of like a digital breadcrumb, digital watermark, something that leads the trail back to you as saying, hey, this is mine. And that's really what we're looking to do here. I apologize for the crying in the background. Oh, he's a little drama boy today. All right, so let's talk about some other options. We're calling this the new and improved kind of stuff, right? So some of the platforms that you're posting your art to have started to add in built-in protection. So these are things that you can choose to turn on and or apply to your artwork when you're posting it on their websites. And the idea here is, again, to help you protect your work while still using their sites, which is kind of a good thing. So this can range from a lot of different things, right? But typical options are disabling downloads, limiting sharing. Some of them don't allow for copy paste. They don't allow you to open an image in a new browser tab. They may also try to stop people from taking screen captures. But they also often include things like, adding watermarks or metadata directly through the site. So it is something else that's worth checking out. If you're interested in this kind of like tech content, feel free to join my mailing list. It's yourtechcoach/mailing list, because I always let the folks there know what content is coming, first. I also let them know about things that are, new things that are coming out. Everybody here hears all the stuff first. So feel free to go ahead and sign up for that if this is the kind of thing you're interested in. Okay. The next one for this category is proactive protection tools. Okay, so let's talk about this, because this is the new thing that's starting to pop up. It's also called by a lot of people image cloaking, image protection. There's a couple of different terms that are being used for this. So if you consider tools like Glaze or Nightshade, they're adding an invisible to the naked eye layer of protection to your images, making it harder for AI to mimic your style and or use your work without consent. So Glaze is works by like tweaking the pixels of your image in a way that a human eye doesn't see it, but it completely confuses the algorithms. Now, is this going to be an endless game of whack-a-mole? 100%. But it's an indication of the type of tools that people are putting together to try to help everybody protect their work. So with this particular tool at this particular time, this means that AI can't easily analyze or copy your work, right? So it's really good for artists who want to share their creations online without the added worry of being used for AI training. Again, not 100%, but it's a step in the right direction. Nightshade, on the other hand, adds hidden tags to your images. So kind of like we were talking about before with like the digital type of approach to this. Those tags aren't noticeable to people, but they do mess with the AI systems that are trying to learn about your artwork and learn from your artwork. So that it's really handy that way. The other benefit to Nightshade is that it also helps you track and verify your work, ensuring that any unauthorized changes are detectable. So it's a handy thing for you to have sitting around. Another layer of this is called AI.txt. Now, there's been a robots.txt. Now, this is going to feel a little geeky, but I'm going to show you in a minute that they're doing what they can to make it less intimidating. So just for historical reference, robot.txt is a way for us to let the spiders and the bots and all that kind of stuff know what they can and can't have access to on our websites. AI.txt takes that idea, and it's really just a simple text file that you can place in your image folders. And it tells those web crawlers, those bots, all those kinds of things, and the AI models how you want your images to be used or not used. And you can specify things like no AI training, only user permission, that type of thing. So I'm just going to take a quick break here, and I'm going to show you what some of these sites look like for context. So just give me a second here. So let's look at a couple of things. So one thing to look at if you want to keep an eye on your stuff is you can look at something called Have I Been Trained? And so what you can do here is you can search for your brand, your name, your whatever name you attach to your artwork, that type of thing, and you can put it in here. Let's try it. Okay. Takes a couple of seconds, but then it goes back and it pulls back images that you can go through and review to see, okay, is anything here mine? And if so, then I can make a decision about it. So none of this is mine, but here, we'll just kind of flip through. So you see it's a variety of different things. But let's say that this is your album art, you're the performer, whatever, you have control of this particular art piece and you don't want it to be out there. What you can do is you can click here, and that activates this do not train button. So you can click on that, and then that will mark that file do not train, and over time they're hoping to build out these databases. So this is one of the options that you have out there. The other thing that we were just talking about is AI.txt. And you can go ahead and all these links are in the description, of course, but you can learn more about AI.txt, get an idea on how to do it, and then you can come in here and you can say, I don't want my text, my images used, I don't want my audio used, but maybe you do want your video used, like you're willing to put that out there. And then you can create this file, you just hit this download button, and then this will be something that you can install onto either in the folder where you're putting your art. Like there's a bunch of different ways to do it, and they explain it, but probably the folder is like a good place to put it. And then that way you got those kinds of information out there. And again, it also proves, even if they ignore it, right, which is totally possible, if they go ahead and they ignore it, you now have proof that you created this file. This file was in the folder and they ignored it, right? So that is strengthening your case. I understand nobody wants to have to deal with the legal stuff. I get that. But the reality is either you're going to protect your stuff or you're not. And it is on you. It's wrong that they're getting away with stealing the stuff, but that is what's happening. So this is the kind of stuff that we do want to share and get out there for people. I don't know what just happened there. That can go away and that can go away. There we go. Floyd, I tried to bring your comment up, but evidently something is crossed up here, and I'm not going to try to fix it in this moment. But Floyd says, this is great information. Thank you. You are absolutely welcome. Like, you're the kind of person that, like, it's been in my head as I've been having these conversations with people, and all of the issues around the AI. So I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're finding this helpful. Because it's important. And unfortunately, it is falling on us, which brings me to another topic, and this, anybody who knows me IRL knows that this is the kind of thing that really pisses me off. But unfortunately, it is what we're stuck with, and that is opting out. This should never have been, and really, there are very few cases where opting out should be the default, right? We should always be asked, and we should have the option of opting in. We should not be forced to opt out of something. You don't get to decide that I'm okay with you stealing my stuff. But that's where we're at. So you do want to go and keep an eye out for ways that you can opt out and tell people, no, I'm not okay with you training your freaking AI on my stuff for free. And this should have been the default, and it is wrong that they've gotten away with this. And hopefully someday they'll get their hands slapped, but don't hold your breath waiting, right? So instead, you're stuck having to track down the companies doing what they're doing, who are misusing AI and code, and you're going to have to opt out. Now, as I mentioned, some AI models do allow the artists to opt out. You're going to have to look for that information. So that site I showed you, the Have I Been Trained, that is a good place to look. There is also other places that you can go, but what I did was because I was looking for like resources I could give you, and there's only a few, but I did include this article from this is The Verge. They have some opting out information in here for some of the AI tools, and also for things like Adobe, who is doing this kind of theft left, right, and center while overcharging you for their crappy tools. I'll just let that lay there. You can go after Meta, but they are very specific about the fact that this is not an easy process. It should be an easy process, but it's not. But they have a lot of good information in here. They've been updating this information. So rather than just give that back to you, I gave you the link in the description so that you can go and you can keep an eye on that, because it is super important, and it is definitely an evolving kind of thing, not evolving fast enough. So like I said, there's the things that you can do now. It's a two-step approach, right? One is making sure that you have laid the paperwork, you have done the workflow stuff, so that should you ever need to prove that this is yours, that you can. And then there's a couple of places where you can be a little bit more proactive on it. It's not happening just yet, but it is out there. Now, when you are thinking about this, trying to figure out what's best for you and your scenario, there are some other things to look at. So for example, you can do a search on Google Images to see if anybody has snarfed your stuff. Same thing with TinEye and Bing Image. So you can go to see if somebody is doing that kind of thing. You can also look at, now this is for the US, of course, this is the US Copyright Office. Wherever you are in the world will have other options. But if you want to learn more about what you can do as far as copyright or whatever legal protection your country provides, highly recommend that you go ahead and you do that as well. And then there's also links so you can learn more about Glaze. And there's other tools out there, but Glaze and Nightshade are getting a lot of traction. So it's probably a good place to start learning. There are other options out there for sure. So I put those links in there for you as well. As I mentioned, like, I am a fan of technology. There are lots of ways that technology makes our lives easier, more interesting, is helpful. But there are, downsides to almost everything. And this, unfortunately, right now, to me, has more downsides than upsides. So take the steps that you can to protect yourself. Like I said, this is focused mainly on, artists, photographers. Most of this works also for video. I will do future content about, more about like the text and audio and more about the video kind of thing. But I wanted to get started someplace. If you have any questions, if you have any tools you'd like to share, I do hope that you will go ahead and pop those into the comments, and so that we can all learn from it, because this is going to be changing a lot over the next few years. I expect to see a lot of lawsuits over the next few years. There are lawsuits that are already happening about this. And unfortunately, that is the only way that protection is really going to become available. But the downside of that is it's not going to be able to undo what's been done. So the faster you start to take these steps, the more people are being aware of it and speaking up about it, the faster we'll get to where we want to go. For you folks who stick through to the end, I really do appreciate it. It does mean everything, and it really does help the videos. I do, as always, have a few other bonus tips for you. Okay, so the first is that you're going to want to monitor your work and the activity around it, right? So keep an eye out for your work online. Get your friends, family, neighbors, like all of them to help out. Use those search engines that I showed you, the reverse image update, that kind of thing, because that is the kind of stuff that empowers you to catch a little bit of what's going on, right? And if you go to, like, hopefully there'll be more. That the Have I Been Trained is a good starting point for like seeing what's out there that's yours, and then also being able to indicate that no, it's not okay for you to use. But you're going to want to keep an eye on that, because not only AI, but anybody using your creation, your work without your permission, you do want to get on top of. Will you repost Instagram? The format currently is unwatchable. Yeah, sorry about that. I am working on to be honest, I don't know if I'm going to stay on Instagram, which is why I'm not, like, I'm just sending it right now. There are things I can do, but I don't know that I'm going to be staying on Instagram. So we'll see. I have a feeling it'll probably go to Twitch. So the other thing that I want to mention is licensing. So it is worth considering, like, are you okay with others using your work? If so, licensing is a way to go, because at least that's a way for you to get paid for it, right? So whether that's for AI or people using your work, you can look into licensing. Now, that is a whole thing unto itself. But at least if somebody's going to be reusing their stuff, you'll be getting some money. So it's worth checking. And then again, like I mentioned earlier, right, it is worth registering the copyright for your work wherever you are, whether you come up with a new design or a collection or a brand. I did show you, the U.S. copyright site, but wherever you are, there is something that lets you state, that as a matter of public record, this is mine, right? And I created it, and I created it here, and these are the rules around it. Because if nothing else, it makes it easier to defend your rights. Now, I realize that is a little bit, closing the barn door after the cows get out. But it does give you more to work with if you do need to go there. So if, for example, if you want to bring a lawsuit for copyright infringement, having that copyright already in place and everything is really important. And the last one is timestamps. So if you timestamp and sign your creation, so that's sort of like the watermark, and actually, either digitally or physically signing it, but also like logging all of that kind of stuff, right? So make sure that even if you just take a picture of it with your phone, because that way it's going to have the date and the time on it. And so any of the work that you create, if you create a library of all that kind of stuff that records the date and time and all that kind of stuff, you're going to, again, have more proof of what it is that you've created. And this is, for digital or physical work. And it will then give you that timeline to say, yes, it's mine, and here's the proof. Whoa. Okay. Sorry, my computer just went wonky. There we go. So in short, you should be indexing your artistic work. So that way, at least you can show how, when, where a piece was created. And that's just another level of protecting your ownership, and giving you a way to decide whether or not you want to share it wherever it is, or whether you don't want to, because it's absolutely fine to say no, right? It is not okay for these people to be taking your work and doing anything with it without your permission. End of story. Unfortunately, all of the labor is on you to actually go and protect that. Floyd, I don't mean blame you. You have to pick your social media balance. Yeah, definitely. And this is a whole side conversation, but I'd been streaming to Twitter, not because I really like Twitter anymore, but because I wanted to see how long it was before they finally really did turn it off, and they turned it off a couple of weeks ago. So now I'm testing. I'm still going to YouTube. I'm still going to Facebook, and I'm looking to figure out what the third's going to be. So that'll happen over time. And again, I will let these folks know first what I decide on. So hopefully that is helpful. I do appreciate you checking this out. And like I said, I would love to hear from everybody, like what steps you're taking. Have you caught anybody using your stuff for AI training? And any tools that you're finding that are helpful, please feel free to share them in the comments, because we need to all help each other here. This is a very messy situation, not of our own making, but we're going to have to take the steps. I know, it's not awesome. I'm sorry. So it is what it is, right? All right, everybody. Thank you so much. I hope you're having a great weekend. I will be here again on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. But in the meantime, if you have anything, if you have any questions, or if you have any topics you want me to cover, please feel free to reach out here. I'm also starting to load some training that you can get there, so feel free to go check that out. All right, everybody. I have to go save the puppy. I will talk to you again soon. Floyd, everyone feels help. This will help. Yeah, I mean, the more everybody pitches in and helps, the better off it'll be. The more we all talk about this and keep it in the forefront, I think that's really important, because let's face it, the companies that are snarfing your stuff, they're hoping that you give up. They hope that you're going to be so overwhelmed that you're not going to stand up for yourself. And I'm here to say, please stand up for yourself, because nobody else is going to protect you on this kind of thing. All right, everybody, have a good one. We will talk again soon. Bye.